Good afternoon. My name is Jong-gu Park, moderating this session for you. I am pleased to moderate this forum, having all you here. The topic of this session is college graduating in a competitive job market. As you may know well, contemporary global economy is facing difficulties such as high unemployment rate and low growth. High unemployment rate and low growth have been a phenomenon featuring the current global economy, which has grown worse since the global financial crisis in 2008. Most of all, the high unemployment rate of young adults between age of 15 to 29 in the world is very serious. For example, the employment rate among Korean youth in their 20s has continuously decreased from 61.2% since 2005. Employment situation, especially for college graduates in Korea, is so serious that a new role in college education and industry college cooperation should be identified and propelled. How efficiently the higher education system provides the technology and knowledge necessary to the industries is becoming one of the crucial challenging issues. Also, cooperation between the education institutes and industry is urgently needed. During this session, we will carry on intense discussion on the experience of college education and job market, current situations, problems, and the way we can find a better answer to the issue. And also, we can hear about overseas cases and their efforts to cope with the unemployment issue, as well as about new skills that may be required for a changing economic system. Today, we invited 5 distinguished panelists from different backgrounds to hear reality. Let me introduce them one by one. Please give them warm applause when they are introduced. Mr. Alessandro Colombo. He is a Director of International Relations and Communication of Europolis Lombardia Institute for Research, Statistics, and Training. Welcome to Korea, and thank you for your precious time to share your ideas and opinions with us. Your comment on situation in the different countries will be very helpful finding better solution. Mr. Paek Jo, Distinguished Professor, Dongguk University, thank you for your participation. From Professor Jo, we can hear about reality of the educational system for college graduate employment. Mr. Sung-Chul Lee, Executive Vice President and Chief Learning Officer, Hyundai Motor Group. He can tell us what companies want from Korean college graduates and what the differences between student skills and the required ones from the industries. We also invited Mr. Jun-Suk Lee, CEO of Classes Studio. He was also member of Senuri Party Emergency Leadership Council. He has an experience in studying abroad and establishing new businesses. He will help us get a deep understanding of differences in the education system for employment of college graduates by telling us his experience. Mr. Jun-Seok Lee. Mr. Jin-gu Jang, a senior student of Yonsei University and a job seeker whose graduation is around the corner. He will be realistically telling us on behalf of the college graduate how they are feeling about the current job seeking situation and what they feel about the job market. We will be very glad if 5 of you can aggressively participate in the discussion. After the panelist discussion, we will be receiving questions and suggestions by involving floor participants and spending some time for wrapping up. For the effective and efficient proceeding of the discussion, let me give you 2 minutes for questioning and answering. First of all, let us hear about the reality of the job-seeking situation. Mr. Jin-gu Jang, could you tell us how your students feel about the current job market? How are they collecting the job information, and what are the difficulties in securing real information on workplaces and duties? And finally, how are your students preparing for employment?
First of all, thank you for your kind introduction. I'd like to say that most of the college students about to graduate are freezing with the astronomical competition rate of current job market. We have left that there are over 1 out of 100,000 competition rate in the SAT exam, which is the entrance exam of the Samsung Corporation, or similar examples. So, as business goes uncertain, college students are also getting risk averse. So they are reluctant to doing something challenging, doing something aggressive. So they prefer to choosing a safe way to get into the job market. So they are doing something, ceaselessly doing something. So some students are working as an intern. Some students are going to a case competition, or some students are doing a student ambassador, something like that. But nobody of them, they don't know whether they are on the right track. So they are very much suspicious whether they are going on the right track, or whether they are relevant or not, or those activities are helpful or not. So in this situation, most of the college students are very much suspicious on their job market. So yes, freezing is a current trend for university. Thanks.
Okay, he's talking about many students are very suspicious about job markets. Okay, Mr. Jun-Seok Lee, how about you? You are the most recent college graduate among the panelists. What did you feel when you are searching for a job overseas? How bad or good is job seeking situation in the United States you studied? And could you tell us the types of competency that are required for the ideal job placement?
To be honest, I have no experience in job searching overseas, but the thing here is when I graduated from college, my friends in college were searching for jobs, and I find it really different from Korea because they didn't try to classify them into a few categories, because whereas in Korea, if you were to apply for an IT startup, IT startups would usually try to put people into 3 categories. Firstly, developers, secondly, designers, third, coordinators. But my friends in the US didn't really care about those kind of classifications and the requirements for each kind of classification. So that really is a difference, because personally confident that if Steve Jobs was to apply for an IT job in Korea, he would not fit into any of those three categories, so he would fail to get a job in Korea. That's my point of view. I spend much time in these forums trying to talk against the creative economy because I think the Korean university graduates and people who are really driving the creative economy is still in these kind of thoughts, you know, trying to classify people into few categories and trying to support them with their own point of view. Because, I mean, when we talk about interdisciplinary studies, I think it's a little more than having double major, you know? Like, it's a little more than that. Because I personally had the pleasure of looking into my friends who actually participated in its initial stage of Facebook, because Facebook was a community service for Harvard College students. And that time, I really thought the difference here was that, I mean, they started their business with their friends in their college dormitories. Because in Korea, if you were to talk to a college student and ask them, who are you? They're going to respond to you with this kind of sentence saying, I'm a third-year student in Yonsei University. I study electrical engineering. But that wasn't really important. That wasn't really what I wanted to hear from them. I wanted to hear why they wanted to join our firm and why they wanted to participate in Facebook, that kind of stuff. And I remember, if you look into Facebook, how was it different from C-4, which came from Korea? I mean, I remember of the 7 initial members of Facebook, 2 of them were my friends, and one of them was Dustin Moskovitz, and the second one was Chris Hughes. Actually, the third one was Andrew McCollum. Their contribution to Facebook was a little different than what Korean engineers or designers or whoever what kind of classification they earned. It was different from them, because if you look into Facebook, it's not actually an IT service. It's somebody programmed it, but that's not the main point. If you look into it, you know how they have a special feature called the like button. Like button, that's not coming from an engineer's perspective. That came from the person who studied psychology in college. If you look in the timeline, it was really different from how C-4 would classify your information. If you were to use C-4, you would specifically have to go into photo album to see your photos. You would specifically have to go into boards to see your articles. And you would have to do the specific actions. But whereas in Facebook, you would just go into the timeline and see what happened to you during the past week or something like that. And that comes from a person who studied history in college, Chris Hughes, who studies history in college. That's a big difference, because in Korea, if you look into the IT firms who just begun their business during the creative economy era, they have no such insights, because they only had experience in computer programming, designing, and the management skills, and I would phrase them into 개발자, 기획자, designer. We need more than that if you're going to achieve creative economy. So I would really urge the government. I think we are in the right direction to push towards a creative economy, but I have the question, are we ready for it? Is our college education ready for creative economy? We need more than 개발자, 기획자, designer. So I would really use this opportunity to put that question onto the table. And that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. He's giving us very compelling personal history. What about Professor Baekjol? What are your students telling you about their job-seeking process and experience? What are the difficulties in landing a job as college graduate?
I see. Is that right? Okay. I see a packed room here. That means a lot of students here are having great difficulty finding jobs. And that's why I feel kind of sad. 20 years ago, when I gave a keynote speech at a national conference, I pointed out mismatches that are detrimental to the employability of our college students. And 20 years later today, I have come to the same analysis and same conclusions. So what happened in the last 20 years? Nothing much, and that's sad. Perhaps when experts talk about unemployment in terms of numbers and statistics, they don't see the pains and sufferings of individual students. Perhaps that's why they don't see any urgency in implementing real changes in education. So I have brought with me 2 recent college graduates who are seeking jobs at this particular moment. I want you to listen to them in person and see if they do not deserve jobs or they actually deserve good jobs. I will give them 1 minute each to talk about themselves. We will start with Ji-ah and then followed by Kim Chun-sik. Oh, wait, microphone is not on.
안녕하세요. 저는 대구 가톨릭대학교 국제행정학과 졸업생 엄지아라고 합니다. 저는 사회공헌 활동을 하고 싶다는 꿈을 가지고 있었는데요. 그래서 저는 장학금을 매학기 거의 받을 정도로 열심히 공부했었고, 그리고 다양한 대외 활동과 수많은 아르바이트를 통해 많은 경험을 쌓았습니다. 저는 그 많은 경험들 속에서 많은 분들께 저의 배려심, 책임감, 그리고 긍정심에 대해 많은 칭찬과 사랑을 받았습니다. 저는 이러한 평가가 정말 자랑스럽습니다. 왜냐하면 저에게 닥쳤던 사회적 도전과 경제적 어려움을 저 스스로 극복해낸 결과이고, 그리고 저는 이 자리에 섰고 저에게 파이팅 스피릿이 있다는 증거이기 때문입니다. 저에게 많은 분들께서 지방대 출신이라고 안 된다고 단호하게 말씀하십니다. 하지만 저는 그 편견을 이겨내고 이 자리에 섰습니다. 그리고 저는 그 편견을 깨고 엄지아라는 사람을 먼저 보실 수 있게 노력할 것입니다. 고맙습니다.
Thank you. Thank you. 김춘식.
안녕하십니까. 저는 한양대학교 정보시스템학과를 올 봄에 졸업한 김춘식입니다. 저는 학부를 최우등으로 졸업을 하였고, 또 이베이, 삼성 SDS, 그리고 벤처기업 2곳에서 16개월 동안 실무 경험을 쌓았습니다. 또 학교 내에서는 흑인음악 동아리, 그리고 경제금융학회 같은 동아리 활동도 열심히 하였고, 또 외부에서는 전국 대학생 리더십 대회에서 수상을 하는 경험을 하게 됐습니다. 더불어 저는 스타트업 경험이 있는데요. 이에 대해서 어느 정도의 가능성을 인정받은 경험이 있습니다. 서울시 지원에 선발이 돼서 사무실과 지원금을 받기도 하고, 또 방송통신위원회 인터넷 비즈니스 스타트업 2011에서 한국 인터넷 기업 협회장상을 받기도 했고, 또 지식경제부에서도 수상을 하기도 했습니다. 또한 저는 예술 분야에도 관심이 많습니다. 그래서 한국의 예술인 복지를 개선하고자 유럽의 기관들을 직접 방문해서 자료를 모아왔고, 이를 토대로 국회 회의에서 참여하고 직접 발의하면서 실제로 법안이 상정될 때까지 돕기도 했습니다. 저는 1년의 경험들을 통해서 제 능력으로 다양한 분야에 베풀고 기여를 할 수 있다는 것을 알게 되었고, 또 이러한 점에서 다차원적으로 기여를 할 수 있는 그런 기업을 찾고 있습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 고맙습니다. Obviously, you cannot tell a person in 1 minute, but trust me if I say that they are all very good, decent people, very dedicated, hardworking, and able. Also, they are with great integrity and a mind to serve the community. If they are having difficulty finding jobs, I don't think it's their failure. I think it's a systems failure. And I hope today in this session we will have enough time to deal with this very important issue and end up with some suggestions that will allow them to find jobs that really fits them. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Joe. He's giving us very challenging aspect of job searching situation. I'm sure you got a real picture of the situation. He emphasized systematic failure, not personal failures. We just heard a domestic situation on the current job market. Let's hear about the situation in Europe. Mr. Alessandro Colombo, are the European college graduates in the same situation as in Korea?
감사합니다. And when I came here, I had many slides, many ideas, many perfect design of what I was going to say. Then I got here and I saw the huge number of young people surrounding us. So I decided to talk to them instead of talking to us. Because we are too well perfect. But they are the future. Now. So in answering the question, I will take the liberty to provide you 10 tips, 10 suggestions. I try to put some of these on each question. And these suggestions are only based on my job, my experience. I spent my life in universities. I got degrees in Cambridge, in Bristol. I got a PhD. I got a degree in philosophy. I'm perfect. And then I became PA to a chancellor of a huge university, the Catholic University in Italy. So I spent my life in universities. But the problem is, in answering your question, Europe now is facing probably the biggest paradox of its history. So on one side, we achieved the highest level of educational training. So most of the European youth, they got a degree, like ever. But at the same time, we got the highest ratio of unemployment. I leave you with this issue. And then the first tips. The first one, training is not a linear process, because life is not a linear process. It's not a thing that you can foresee. The important things in your life happened because they were not foreseen. You were born without any project. And you met your wife without any project. The important things happen. Second tip, specialization. Okay, it's fine. But university means universe together. And my impression is that modernity is answering the challenge of complexity through specialization. And the more complex the situation is, the more we invent another sector, which is comprehensible. But now we need something else. So specialization is fine, but for God's sake, is there anybody going this way instead of this way? So if you manage to go this way, horizontally, probably you hit the nail on the head. Third tip, skills. You cannot learn all the skills on a desk. That's it. No. If you go on the website and you see jobs, university, finding a job, skills, you find thousands of websites telling you what kind of skills you can learn. everybody is explaining you when you go to an interview, you have to show these skills. They're all the same. Communication skill, teamwork, negotiation, problem solving, leadership, organization. Another website, teamwork, verbal communication, commercial awareness, analysis. Another website, oral communication, team working, problem solving. Okay, I know that. Fine. The thing is, where the hell do you learn this? And when? When do you become strength at the university? According to the neuroscientists, you become what you are between 0 and 4 years. So probably skills have more to do with mothers than to universities and colleges.
Thank you. Dr. Colombo gave us so-called 10 valuable tips or suggestions. For example, he said, you can learn all skills on the desk. We just hear about the job seeker situation. It seems that the biggest problem factor for the unfriendly job-seeking environment is the mismatch in the labor market. This mismatch is more serious for the small and medium enterprises, as we may know, because many college graduates are looking for jobs in big companies, in chaebol, but their work skills are not frequently met for the workplaces. Mr. Sung-Chul Lee, is the level of employment competence of college graduate good enough for the workplaces? How much is your company satisfied? How much of time and budget is needed for the competency development before placements of the new employees to work?
Well, in general, I'm very satisfied with the newcomers. Well, they're very capable compared to the people that about 10 or 20 years ago. They're very capable these days. In general, it's okay. But as you all know, many changes are coming in business world. So we recently redefining our competencies for our employees, such as not only knowledge, but also humanity and human characteristics. They are very important, which is very sound, fundamental as an individual. All those things when we have jobs to solve in an organization, we need to collaborate all the time, and communication skills, all those things are very important. These days, we are redefining those competencies. In general, knowledge-wise, okay, we are satisfied, but those field experience and working with others and express that your ideas and your thoughts with others, they're very important. So those things actually we are focusing on at this moment. I'll tell you that we are in the middle of the big changes in business world, especially all those globalization is very accelerated at this moment. So I should say global leadership competencies. We might have to think about all those things that are in new fashion actually. So that's something I'd like to talk about it, and also futuristic mindsets. We have to worry about the features. Those things that we are focusing at this moment.
Thank you, Sung-Chul Lee. He said for a successful application, you must have not only knowledge but good human characteristics. Okay, let us hear what the college is preparing for the student in terms of educational system. Professor Joe, how does your college develop the curriculum? And how intensively are the industries involved for the curriculum development? If that's the case, tell us how you implement it.
I think there's a room for industry involvement in university education. Not only are there opportunities, I think it's imperative that there is actually a must that industry get to involve in college education. Let us go back to the story told by Jia and Kim Chun-sik. They worked very hard to study the regular coursework. Then they had to work extra hard to pile up the additional criteria, what we call in Korea the spec, that you got to have a lot of those. Those are extracurricular. And then they have to work again in odd jobs here and there in the night times and weekends to pay for those extracurricular activities. I think it's crazy. If those specs are actually very important in getting jobs in the workplace, then it should be a part of curriculum. I know the academicians are not used to embracing those extracurricular activities, and they are not experts in that. And I think that's where the partnership with the industry can come in, so both can win. I think college and industry really need to work together in designing new curriculum that incorporates so-called the specs designed into the formal curriculum. Then I think many college students can concentrate not just on the coursework, but designing their future much better than current system. So I think it's not only a room for involvement, but it is a must that they get to involve in it.
Thank you, Professor Joe. You emphasized that every player should be more actively involved in making good curricula, particularly in designing new curriculums for your own sake. Mr. Sung-Chul Lee, could you elaborate the way your institute cooperate with colleges or institute when you develop a curriculum for hands-on skills?
Yes, we work with schools that in many ways, not only developing curriculums, but also recruiting people from colleges and from other fields too. Normally, the contents like professional areas, professional skills, yes, we do have a lot of work ongoing with the professors in university. Not only in Korea, but also overseas. And other things that we also think about is the working with the well-known scholars in overseas, like for our overseas employees, host country nationals. That's something we have to think about from now on. So that way that we try to make talents in company. Of course, we used to be like talent takers, but we try to be talent makers in that in business world. That's much I can say about fashion.
Thank you. Mr. Jin-Gu Chang, I think your college is also emphasizing and adopting industrial cooperation frameworks. Can you tell us the supporting system and policy, and do your college students feel benefit a lot from it?
First of all, my college's supporting system is quite great, so I admit that. But I'd like to say two things. The first one is the low industry exposure in college curriculum, and the second one is something voluntarily programs in terms of extracurricular activities for students. Okay, the first one, there is a low industry exposure in college. So also, of course, there are some classes which are closely related to industry. For example, managing world-class managing enterprise in Yonsei University, which is the case of Hyundai Motors. And another example is managing innovative company, which is taken in Ewha Women's University with the case of Facebook, Twitter, and HN, or something like startups. In these courses, students have exciting opportunities to study certain industry while interacting with industry managers. However, the majority of courses are still focusing on specific functions, such as accounting, finance, marketing, etc. Mostly, their courses are too much to cover within 1 or 2 semesters, and as a result, students often don't have enough chances to experience the application of the subject in a real-world business. So I'd like to suggest that college should expand industry-related courses or enhance current course curriculums with the real-world application. In addition, there are various kinds of business clubs in college with unique specialties. For example, Yonsei Management Consulting Group, where I belong to, focuses strategy and business consulting. The orientation varies from marketing, finance, or valuation, entrepreneurship, to big data analysis or business environment, like that. So in the business clubs, members are required to do in-depth analysis and analysis of business environment or company situation and discuss the practical solutions. So, and often they often co-work with major companies in the form of joint project. Through these activities, students are voluntarily looking for their interests and capabilities while pioneering their career path. However, unfortunately, this kind of active ecosystem is available for only a limited number of colleges. I'd like to say that schools should fully support these kinds of student-run business clubs or like extracurricular activities. Thanks.
Thank you. Jang Jun could talk about extracurricular activities to prepare for job application. Dr. Colombo, could you add some of your thoughts on these topics?
I mentioned already something about what you can learn outside university or inside university in a different way. But let me add other 2 tips. The fourth is that education and learning is a never-ending story. Cannot stop. If this morning or tomorrow you wake up and somebody told you, listen, you know what? Today you are not going to learn anything. There will be nothing new. Technically, naturally, for you, this is a nightmare. You cannot conceive this. As a human being, it's not you. And the demonstration is that actually somebody is telling you something new, which you're not going to learn anything. So paradoxically, the very fact that you are learning nothing isn't new. So your nature is made that you want to learn. But be careful, because naturally that's the way it is. It doesn't mean that this is automatic. It entirely depends on you. Like for me now, talking to you in this very moment, if it's not a learning process for me, it will be boring and you would immediately understand this. But it's for you now. If you're here And it entirely depends on your position. And this is something more to do with your heart than with your brain. It entirely depends a second before if you are expecting something or not. That's the same at university. That's the same with your wife. That's the same with your kids. That's the same in your job. It entirely, regardless what you're doing, learning and training is a never-ending story. The alternative is to get bored and, let me say, to be boring for other people. Fifth tip. Theoretical, one of the walls that we have to overcome is the distinction between theoretical and practical knowledge. You maybe be familiar with Aristotle, the philosopher, the Greek philosopher. In Greece, the word poiesis was the word to express a kind of practical knowledge. But be careful, because poiesis was poem. Poem in the Western country means poem, a poem, the beauty. But it has the same root that poiesis. And poiesis for the Greek people meant to do, to touch, to transform. Or think about the word artisan. Artisan, handicraft, those who make things. Artisan, art. It's a piece of art. You can make a chair like a piece of art. Artisan, making things for a human being is making something, copying the nature, and you put something else into that, regardless what. Something that we have to change is the distinction between theoretical and practical. Because we live our lives like we had a kind of theoretical knowledge, and then we have to apply this. But it might be the other way around. When you get married, you can understand perfectly this.
Thank you. Dr. Colombo doesn't give us all tips at a time. To get all tips, you should stay here. Okay, let's turn to internship programs. Mr. Jinggu Chang, I think doing internship is one of the representing example of cooperation between college and industry. Could you tell us your internship experience or your friend? What did you learn from it?
Thank you for the question. Personally, I have experienced in internship in a professional firm such as consulting or investment bank. So these cases are too much specific, so hard to generate in other words. So I'd like to say my friend's case. So most companies are operating internship programs, but how many of them regard interns as their future human resources? Of course, somebody say yes. Hundreds of interns are mostly doing trivial works, such as copying or very simple researches like that. Mostly doing trivial works with a little responsibility due to confidential issues or lack of trust of their working capabilities. Also, companies are regarding interns as an advertising resources rather than potential working capital. So I strongly recommend companies to operate pilot projects with interns with proper training programs and feedbacks and give a full-time offers to alpha performers. So internship should be a work, not a one-time event. Thanks.
Thank you. Concerning employment, the problem of college education is to focus so much on the theoretical education that it seems to lose the chance to raise hands-on practical skills. And also there is some criticism that internship program is kind of superficial, not enough for applying what the student learn to real workplaces. Mr. Jun-Suk Lee, what do you think about it? Could you tell us your experience in this case?
So I have a little story about this. I think it was year 2006. Two Korean students who was studying in Boston applied for internship. One was me, and the other one was my friend. He went to MIT, I went to Harvard. We went to good universities, but he applied to Microsoft because he didn't have a girlfriend in Korea. And I applied to Hanwha Securities because I had a girlfriend in Korea. That was the difference. But the experience we had that summer was real different. I'm not sure if it's okay to open this, but he was doing his internship at Microsoft, and he was to build the Excel Viewer 2007 for the company. Yeah, that was the mission given to him. And the mission given to me was to please my employer, as in go and drink alcohol with them and those kind of stuff. That was the kind of difference, the different expectations they had on interns, the firm in Korea and the firm in the US. And I was really mad at it because I applied for the internship because I wanted to learn some practical learnings from it. But I was mad at that point. But after I came back to Korea and when I started my own business, I started hiring interns for me. And I found out that that choice that they made, Hanwha Securities made, was smart because the interns I hired were not what I was expecting because I know today is examination day for Korean students, but the thing is, the Korean students are usually trained for multiple choice questions, I think. They are really good when there's a clear set goal or clear set objective. They are really good at achieving it. But whenever there's an open-ended question, there's not really much thing they can do, you know. Even in debates, you know, in Korea, debating skills has grown a lot, but when it's a debate about right or wrong, or good or evil, they're really good at it. They know what's right and what's wrong. But whenever the debate goes into a question like, which is better, this or this, in that kind of situation, they are really not good at it. Say I ask you a question, please try to prove me which one's better, Americano or cafe latte. Can you answer this question? But those kind of trainings are what's really needed for corporate jobs, you know. Whenever there's whenever you have to make decision between two good things, you know, which is better? How can you make this better? How can you optimize this? This kind of questions are really open-ended, and if you're not trained for it, there's really no use for vocational trainings and internships, you know. And one good example is I hire interns who are really good at computer programming, and in Korean colleges, they don't really teach you how to build a software. Even if you're majoring in computer science, I think there's only 4 colleges in Korea who teaches you how to make a database management system. It's a really open-ended job for them, you know, make a database system. You can do whatever you want with it, but most of the other universities, other than the 4, KAIST, 서울대학교, and Post-Tech, and 성균관대학교, as I know, other than those 4 universities, they teach you how to use the database system built by other people. That's not the kind of skill software companies expect from a programmer. And I think college education has to deviate from multiple choice questions or the education of finding right or wrong answer or good or evil. They have to move into the era of open-ended questions and try to make the students think more about how to make things better. I know it's a copy for Philips, but that's what really Korean education needs right now. How do you make this software better? How do you make this organization better? I mean, if college students know how to answer to those questions, I'm pretty sure all the Korean companies, including Hanwha Securities, will try to give their interns a better opportunity for vocational training. I think that's the big gap we have to breach now.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, Professor Cho, our college supporting system is very weak compared to college in US in terms of job placement, skill development, and so on. And could you tell us something about it?
I don't know whether I can compare the systems in Korea versus the US because my experience is primarily in the United States. I went to 7 different universities in the States, so I can say a little bit about that. I entered a college when I was 17 years old. Didn't know the word. I just went to college because I had to. I went. And the very first day, I was shocked because part of the orientation for freshmen was for the school to take the freshmen to a place called Career Center, Career Development Center. It is a center in the university which helps graduates find jobs. And the very first thing that they did was show us sample resumes of senior students who are seeking jobs. It was shocking because for the first time, I, in a very concrete manner, start to see what is really needed to get a job. Before, it was all abstract, vague. It was shocking. You know, in the States, when students graduate, they submit one-page resume to the university, Career Center, and they use that to find jobs for you. In fact, they send out the resume to all these different companies. So one page, you have to document your 4 years of your college experience in one page. And the company is going to decide how good you are, whether you are suitable for the job based on in that one page. So when I was a freshman, just out of high school, just 17 years old, and when I saw that one page that I have to fill in 4 years later, that changed my way of thinking. I had a very concrete goals that I have to achieve. That was, in a way, the best guide that I got in becoming successful in a way. So I think the university doesn't have to spend a lot of money. They don't have to create huge infrastructure in helping students find jobs. They can do as simple as simply showing the freshmen during the orientation what are the expectations of the real world. And for a 17, 18-year-old, that is very powerful message. Very powerful. And I hope, since I do see some young people, that you actually do that and you will see the difference in the level of motivation, level of the aspirations, and get a very concrete idea as to what you need to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Colombo, could you tell us how much your countries or colleges make efforts in establishing and strengthening the industrial relationship for the college graduate employment?
After the Bologna process, my country, like many other countries, was obsessed with this idea of professionalizations of universities. And probably we spent 2005 until 2008, most of the university in Italy still thought that the professionalization was their task, at least one of their important tasks. Nowadays they are realizing that probably that's not the way it is. Because it doesn't mean that you don't have to take care of the future of the students that you have, like Professor Pecciò just said, and I totally agree with that. But that's different from changing your nature in a kind of secondary school for training, practicing, forgetting what is your vocation. And your vocation is to teach something useless. Otherwise, you become like a dog, a cat, like all the other animals. Animals can do, they are satisfied with what is useful, but we are not. But anyway, my country, like many other countries, they went through this myth of the professionalizations. What they're doing now, which is quite interesting, is to try and implement a dual system like they have in Germany. A dual system means, in a nutshell, that you go to school and then you go to job, and then you go to job and then you go to school. 2 days a week, 3 days a week, alternatively. If you ask me, is it working? Probably not. Especially in Italy, it doesn't work. But it depends on other factors that I will mention later. The other thing that they tried to do and failed was the so-called diploma, which meant that in the 3-year system they tried to create a kind of a technical school. So it wasn't a degree, it was a technical school. The problem is that in Italy, like in many other countries, probably also in Korea, your parents, when you go to university, they want that at the end you can be called doctor. Otherwise they don't give money. So university means that your son is called Dr. Alessandro Colombo. So doctor, the title is important. And that's an interesting point. It might be funny, but it's a relevant point. So it didn't work for this reason, which is an interesting social dimension that we have to take into account, the social recognition of the thing. That's it. There are many other things that they're trying to do, but mainly is what they were trying to do is to transform this. What is happening now, and I'm finishing, is the other way around. So we are facing now different training in Europe and in Italy, different training schools or vocational educational training systems or institutions. They are starting to develop academic programs. Some of them are developing PhD programs, for example. And one of the interesting things is the use of the PhD in the future in this respect. I'm not going to give you a tip this time. Next.
Issues and a blight of knowledge which cannot be obtained without solid base in the humanities. Companies value crossover human resources who are not only have technical credentials but also have knowledge in the humanities, foreign languages, and humanistic knowledges. And Dr. Sung-Chul Lee, are college education and companies, OJT, emphasizing personality and liberal education in practice?
Yes. As I told you in the beginning, actually we are providing the classes for our employees, especially in the area of humanity areas, especially like most of companies has their core values, corporate philosophies, all those things. Of course, our company also has 5 core values. So we try to train our employees to act and also communicate with others based on our core values. That's something that we are providing at this moment. We are not providing that all kind of humanity classes, but those business activities. We are focusing on those areas. And the other things that we also trying to train our employees learning agility. These days you can get it and those knowledge very easily. But how to apply and also combine with that other knowledges and other in other field. These days we are talking about it, a lot of fusions and conversions, all those things. So we need to have those learning agility to combine that other fields expertise actually. So that kind of programs that we are learning at this moment. Other than that, yes, in global fashion, we are also providing and focusing on culture and diversity things. That's very important at the area that we are focusing on. That's something that we are very big that the competence area for the global operation. Yes.
Then how much is crucial in your company? Crucial, critical. How much is critical in case of your companies?
how much critical?
Yeah. Humanities, yeah.
Well, we are focusing on very much, actually. Probably that in terms of numbers, for example, like leadership programs. Leadership programs, we are focusing on all those attitude and how to think, how to judge, all those things very much. Probably in terms of more than half. Professional skills, of course, we provide those classes. More than probably 60%, something like that.
Okay, Professor Cho, could you explain the realities of Korean colleges in this case?
On the liberal education? I think currently the balance is broken. You know that the education, the purpose of education is twofold. One is to make a living. The other one is to make a life. 무슨 말이냐면은 학습 위한 교육도 있고 삶을 위한 교육도 있다는 것이죠. But the latter part is very much forgotten. That we acquire so much skills and techniques at the expense of humanities. I am very glad to participate in this forum because so many speakers emphasize the need for things like a meaning, respect, human relationship, ethics. Those things are intangible but essential, not only in living in peace and harmony with each other, but that is the most important aspect of leadership. I think college needs to emphasize that a bit more. It's not in contrast to skills and technology. I think it is in fact the most important skills that you need to learn. Otherwise, you are only going to get a first job. And your parents' times, first job lasted them lifelong because they usually retired at 60 and their average longevity was 60. Now you have to live until maybe 100 or more. You have to find maybe 5, 6 different occupations. So if you are in it for a long run, if you want to be successful at the same time, be happy, then you got to emphasize the humanities, the liberal arts aspect of education. It's not this or the other. You need to address them both and have very happy balance. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Colombo, we know that many European countries also emphasize the humanities education. If they do, how do they adapt in education?
I'm almost worried because I agree too much with Professor Cho. Probably we should find something we don't agree with. But if I asked you to write down a discipline belonging to the humanities, if I give you 1 minute, write down one discipline, you will probably, most of you will write literature, will write philosophy, write moral science, or linguistic. Probably not the majority of you would write economics. I totally agree with you. Even more, economics is a humanities. Economics was born as a science of economics from the Greek oikos nomos, which means oikos is house, home, and nomos means law. It's the law of the house, as the house is a human experience. So economics is a human. The inventor of economics, Adam Smith, you know what job did he do? He was a moral philosopher. So this distinction has to be taken into account. This is what's happening in Cambridge, for example. In Cambridge, I was there last month, and I was a bit was a bit scared, because in Cambridge what happened is that the business school, the Judge Business School, which is a great school, is taking on board all the economics. And now all the economics has been done by the business school. But business school is another thing. It's not economics. I'm not saying it's not serious. I'm saying it's a different thing. Because profit, how to run a business in terms of technicals, is another thing, which is not internal economics. So in Europe, we're going through this process. And think about our reaction to the economic crisis, to the downturn in 2008. We were shocked because this economic science was not able to foresee the thing and how to deal with what's going on, how to understand. What they are doing now is in Europe is to try and recover this separation of disciplines. And I hope they can manage to do so, because this is the very nature of university. Because the only place where we can recombine this idea is university. And now I'm coming to the tip. Tip number, I don't remember, 6. And I will copy the former Prime Minister, Edu Barak. And I was shocked when he mentioned this shift, the importance of the shift, and this is a tip, from achievement to meaning. From the importance of the achievement, the success, to be successful, and the importance of meaning. I mean, all my tips are not tips from the... These are the tips these are the way through which I found jobs. And let me say, very good jobs. I found my jobs through these experiences. Okay. What is meaning? What is the meaning? What is the meaning, the sense of this glass? The meaning of this glass is the connection between this glass and everything else. You as a human being dealing with the meaning, being involved with the meaning, is to find the connection between things. And again, this is something that the dog cannot do. The dog can answer, this glass is useful to drink, fine. But this is not, it's just a simple linear reaction. No, to put something into the big scheme. And this is important, and I'm finishing, because your spirit, your idea of me, your commitment, the way you want something, your position, like the two examples that we heard, you're willing to participate to a social, your personal position, your spirit, like Barack said, Prime Minister said, your spirit, be careful, because we consider this like a private issue. My spirit, my willingness, my spirit is a private, personal issue. No, it's a public asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Despite the effort made by the industries and colleges, support of government is essential for the efforts to be a meaningful result. Mr. Jun-Suk Lee, you may have something to say about our government role in the job market comparing, say, U.S. government.
So if I said in the beginning my goal was to talk against the creative economy, I think President Park would be really, really upset about it. But she's halfway around the globe, so I'll talk about it. So the thing is that the government has been pushing creative economy for the past year. And the thing here is that it doesn't really benefit much of the college students who are seeking for jobs. You know, when I say, if you talk about creative economy, how many people can benefit from it? That's the question. Because most of the people, most of the college students don't really have much role in it if it's bound to ICT or IT. How much do you know about computer programming? How much do you know about building smartphone apps? You know? So here, the thing here is, when the economy, I know Professor Colombo said about the meaning of economy, but by creative economy, what we want to achieve is make our life happier. And I mean, somebody building an app for me doesn't really make me happier. What makes me more happier is if someone would make better kimchi for me, for example, make better potato chips for me, because that would make my life happier. But our government's creative economy lacks that kind of position in most ways. Because if you really talk about IT, you know how IT can be a valid business is if you replace human labor with computer. That's where IT earns from IT's perspective. And if that is going to be the way we're going to make our economy go, that means, I mean, I know there are different sessions who think Israel is good, but from my point of view, if you're really going towards the Israel model of creative economy, that's a disaster for us. Because if you look into the statistics, Israel has the highest poverty rate in OECD countries, among the OECD countries. That's because only elites can participate in creative economy of their model. Only the people who know how to program, only the people who know how to start a business can benefit from it. We know from the past administration that trickle-down economy doesn't really work in our situation. And if that is going to be how creative economy is going to benefit the college students and the other participants, I mean, that's not going to work. There are going to be people who replace human labor with computer and earn money. We know a few companies in Korea, NHN, Nexon. Nexon really earned money because they knew how to steal time from families. They stole children from families. Families would not go to amusement parks. They would not go to dinner, but they would just give their children 20,000 won to buy items and spend time with computers. After Nexon's success, there would have been a lot of failures behind them. Say, you buy books from Amazon right now. That means that there are many, many bookstores in Korea that closed because of Amazon, or Yes24, or Kyobo bookstores. That kind of creative economy is not going to work in our scenario. Do we have an answer to that? That is my question. And the thing is, the mismatch between the supply and demand of jobs, that's going to worsen if we push forward towards an IT-based creative economy. Because as a person who owns an IT company, creative economy is not bad because they will give me money, they will give me all these subsidies. But as a IT company owner, it's good. But as someone who participated in politics for a while, it's a disaster. Because after 5 years, I assume that people are going to not benefit from this creative economy and see a few really good entrepreneurs who earned billions of won and live good, but not me. Not the person who is destined to stay in the countryside and grow potatoes. How is he going to benefit from this creative economy? Because I was in the team that built the presidential election promises, and that time we were trying to solve that question. Is creative economy really a solution to jobs, creating jobs? My personal decision was no, it's not. It's going to reduce jobs. The second one is the person in agriculture benefit from this? And we couldn't come up with an answer to that. And is a so-called 지방대생 benefit from this creative economy? My answer was no. There's no way they're going to benefit from them unless we go back to the old theory of trickle-down economy, which didn't work for the past 5 years. So, I mean, we have to really come up with an answer to this. I think the government should stop pushing towards IT-based creative economy because we know and the public knows that this is not our story. It's just the story of few IT entrepreneurs who are trying to be Bill Gates or trying to be Mark Zuckerberg. And we should, the government, if the government is in it, government is not a venture capital, you know. They should go for better goals. And they should go for more egalitarian goals, you know. And that's my point I want to make here. Yeah. And I think the president is really not going to like this idea, but I really want to be more happier by, if the government was to subsidize someone in the countryside growing better cabbages and make better kimchi for me, I think that is a really good example of creative economy that I can actually feel, which is really tangible for me in that case.
Yeah, thank you. Professor Joe, in what way the government policy and support relate to with college grade employment is helping our student job placement?
Actually, when Professor Colombo and Mr. Lee Jun-seok talked about economy and economics, I actually have asked the chair to give me a chance to talk about that issue. The first thing one learns in economics is that any form of monopoly is not good. It stifles the opportunities, right? It's unfair, and eventually it ruins the fair market. Is that right? But in Korea, there is a government-sanctioned and government-supported monopoly that's going on. That is the way we grant degrees in higher education. The universities have absolute monopoly over that. That, in a way, is a bottleneck. As long as the college decides who enters college, and as long as the colleges also decide who gets the diploma, no real change, no real reform can be possible. So I say that we need to get rid of monopoly now. I know that some of you don't feel comfortable with that idea. The idea of monopoly made sense before because it gave a strong sense of quality control. But now, in the information age, in the age of lifelong learning, in a learning society, which Korea already is, it's outdated. In fact, I know in Hyundai, for example, they spent a lot of money to re-educate their staff. I calculated the amount, and it is equivalent to spending money to support each employee a full scholarship to an Ivy League university for 4 years. That's how much money that they already invest. So why not invite all continuing education in industry and in society at large into the folds of formal education, and we should be able to grant diplomas after completion of a set requirement. That will open up the bottleneck in the university. That will free up a lot of young people like you to pursue your dream at your pace. It will give second chance for students who for one reason or another had no interest in education when they were in high school. They can get job first and then still get college degrees and master's degrees and PhD if they put in the effort. A society that is forgiving of failures. It's a vibrant, energetic society. We need to consider getting rid of the current monopoly in the diploma market. And I think that will make a lot of you feel much freer. You feel more inclined to take risk and to pursue your dreams and aspirations. And I hope the government support that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's look for the other ways of being employed other than applying for a job in the competitive job market. Being an entrepreneur will be one of the alternatives. We know that Mr. Jun-Seok Lee is the entrepreneur who has established business. Could you tell us the competence required for entrepreneurship or in established business? Because we have a time limit. Could please comment in 1 minute.
So I know a lot of college students would be preparing for their job interviews and this kind of stuff after graduation. But from my point of view, the only academic achievement from a college student or a high school graduate I would acknowledge is their middle school grade. Anything after that doesn't mean much to me because they come from different universities, they come from different types of high schools, and I don't want to look into those kind of variations actually because that doesn't really mean much to me because there's a really high correlation between middle school grade and their actual ability to talk and speak and solve math problems and those kind of stuff. So to be honest, there's a really, really great degree of inflation in college degrees, as someone mentioned. I mean, I looked into statistics, and 80% of people in college, that's just insane. That doesn't really make any sense, because that 80% of people in college means that everyone's in college, so your college degree doesn't mean much to employers. But the thing here is, when I interview people, I ask them a few questions. Do you have a story that you can tell me that will interest me for the next 5 minutes? And it's really, not many people could answer that question because they lived 20, 25 years, 30 years, but they still had less than 5 minutes of their personal story that can appease other people. And that was a big problem for me. Because I know that people who study for jobs or prepare for jobs, they would think that they require their TOEIC scores. But I don't expect the Korean students to be really fluent in English. That's nonsense, you know. You don't have to be fluent in English to develop computer softwares. You don't really have to go overseas to, do volunteer service for some Vietnamese people you don't know, you know. They know it's a tour program, you know, for everyone. They know you're not really a good person at voluntary services. You just went there because you had enough money. You live in Gangnam and you have the money to go there and spend 2 weeks wearing uniforms provided by some great company and pretend that you were really egalitarian or something. But that's not what I'm interested in. I mean, I really want to ask the job seekers, do you really have 5 minutes of your story that can appease other people and make you special among the other job seekers? Because, I mean, I personally have my 15 minutes of interesting story that I can share with anyone, and I appease the president with it. Can you do it? And I think that's the question I want to ask the Korean university students and job seekers here.
Yeah, thank you. The final question goes to Dr. Colombo. What types of skills must we gain for the future emerging industry? We may need to prepare something realistic for what we call third industrial revolution.
I will run because we've got a few minutes, and I've got other 4 tips, which might be also part of the skill. The first one is it's one of the walls that we have to overcome, is the myth of the mass university education. It has already been mentioned. If you've got 80% of your people with a university degree, it doesn't mean anything in itself. We don't have time, but because the European Union puts this as one of the indicators, this is going to be a problem. Because in most of the regions where there's high unemployment, people simply don't have a job, so they go to university. And so for the European Union, this is good. Anyway, we don't have time, but please, Steve Jobs has been mentioned, but you can mention Woody Allen, you can mention Bill Gates, you can mention Abraham Lincoln, you can mention Rockefeller. All these people have in common that they didn't go to a college. Tip number 8. I've already mentioned the useful thing. I do believe this, and please take me seriously. When I talk about this, I usually think of my 4 kids. So it's a very, I'm not taking this theoretically. Please, be interested in what is not immediately useful. Even at school, just follow what is also useless. It's the idea of ozio of the ancient people, no? Negotiation is not ozio. So ozio is doing nothing, for example. Have you ever enjoyed the nothing thing? Have you ever walked? I recently came back for a pilgrimage in Santiago de Compostela in the north of Spain, and for 7 days I walked. I did 25 kilometers per day. I was still proud of myself. But when you walk, have you ever tried walking for a few days, for 20? Just try and see. Why? Because this is the difference between, because if you are stuck in what is useful, you can do things correctly and right, but you can't do them well. The difference between something done correctly and something done well, which is a human distinction, has to do with what is not needed now. And what is not needed now is really interesting, because we did not need a mobile phone. But because we didn't follow what we need, we invented a mobile phone. We did not need chocolate. Humankind has spent centuries without chocolate, and now we need chocolate. You know, if you follow what you need, you will never find something different. Just follow what you don't need. Number 9, tip number 9. Follow your guts. Again, let me quote the Prime Minister again. Because do what you want as long as you really want this thing. So I said to my kids, I'm not going to give you €1 single for university if you choose something that you don't really want. If you choose something because you think that it's useful to find a job, I'm not going to pay that. Just follow what you want to do. Because sooner or later, I promise, that's what happened to me. Sooner or later, if you follow what you want, somebody else will say, why is he happy? I need somebody happy in my firm. So the Prime Minister quoted a Greek say that I want to repeat you. If you don't know which part you want to get to, no one can take you there, not even a college. Tip number 10, and I'm finished with another sentence. Sometimes systems can change man, but always a man can change a system. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we are just done with discussion among the invited guests, and now we may spend some time listening to comment and receiving questions from the floor audience. Because 90 minutes have already passed, I limit the time for the comment from the audience within 30 seconds. For those who would like to comment, please raise your hand. Each panelist will answer your questions after all questions and comments are made. Please tell your name and occupation.
네, 가톨릭대 다니는 박대호라고 합니다. 우선 이준석 패널 분께 질문드리고 싶습니다. 하버드대를 거쳐서 클래스 스튜디오 CEO에 이르기까지 어떤 역량을 키우기 위해서 어떻게 구체적으로 노력을 하였는지 한국어로 말씀 부탁드립니다.
네, 아유, 한국어로 답해달라고 하니까 편하긴 편하네요. 제가 영어로 말했더니 많이 빨라지는 것 같아가지고. 그런데 그 역량이라는 거 사실 생각해보면은 저는 제가 예전에 어떤 TV에서 강연해가지고 한 말도 있지만은 우리 엄마가 하지 말라는 거 다 했어요. 네, 왜냐면 제가 우리 엄마한테 고마워하는 것도 많지만은 반대로 우리가 살아가면서 다른 사람의 조언을 자꾸 기대려고 하는 것 자체가 유효한지에 대해서 고민해볼 수 있는 게 지금까지 제가 아까 그 사이의 과정이 뭐가 있었냐 물어보시는데 제가 원래 그 미국에서 바로 돌아왔던 이유는 병역을 마치기 위해서 제가 병특하면서 그동안에 영리 활동할 수 없으니까 비영리 단체를 하나 만들었어요. 배움을 나누는 사람들이랑 비영리 단체를 하나 만들어서 지금까지 계속 해오고 있거든요. 근데 그 단체를 만든 게 제 인생의 전환점이었어요. 그런데 우리 엄마는 처음에 하지 말라 그랬어요. 예, 너 여자 꼬시려고 하는 거냐 이러면서 막 뭐라 그랬거든요. 그런데 그런 걸 하다 보면은 그러니까 원래 맞지가 않아요. 컴퓨터공학을 전공한 하버드 나온 사람이 왜 그런 걸 하고 있겠냐 했지만 아까 교수님 말씀하신 것처럼 내가 진짜 원하는 게 무엇인지 생각해보면은 내가 정말 하고 싶은 것이 뭔지 찾아보면은 저는 제가 성적이 좋아가지고 갔지만은 제가 정말 하고 싶었던 거는 애들 가르치는 거였어요. 제가 만약에 그 병특이라고 제가 영리 활동을 할 수 없게 억제된 3년의 시간이 없었다면은 저는 영영 그 세계를 못 봤을 수도 있어요. 왜냐면 아까 말했던 것처럼 어떤 내가 해야 된다고 생각하는 것들, 내가 취업해서 돈 벌어야지라는 것들, 이런 걸 쫓아가기에 바빴을 수도 있거든요. 하지만 그걸 했더니만 제가 6년 동안, 7년 동안 거기서 그 단체에서 매주 저소득층 중학생단체 수학 강의를 하면서 저는 알게 모르게 저에게 한 가지 능력이 배양된 걸 최근에 깨달았어요. 어느 누구한테나 말을 하든지 간에 하버드생이나 소위 말하는 먹물의 어려운 용어가 아닌 중학교 2학년 저소득층 학생을 설득시킬 수 있는 쉬운 어휘로 모든 얘기를 설명할 수 있다는 것. 작년에 해보니까 너무 중요한 능력이더라고요. 100분 토론 나가가지고 새누리당을 디펜스한답시고 경제민주화를 설명해야 되는데 제가 만약에 하버드 먹물 먹은 그 상태였다면은 굉장히 어려운, 저도 경제학과 나왔거든요. 어려운 말로 설명하려고 했을지 모르겠어요. 그런데 제가 항상 말할 때 중학교 2학년 이해시킬 수 있는 수준으로 갔기 때문에 어쩜 제가 TV 토론 나가서 진중권 교수나 노회찬 같은 사람이랑 붙어서도 안 밀린다고 쉽게 설명할 수 있다고 평가 들은 건지도 모르겠어요. 제가 아까 그 여유를 가졌기 때문에 아까 제가 정말 원하는 것을 쫓아갈 수 있는 여유를 가졌기 때문에 수많은 좋은 대학 나온 사람들과 약간 다른 스킬들이 몇 가지 있었던 것이 아닌가 그런 생각 해보면서 그걸 한번 권장해보고 싶습니다. 그거는. 네.
자, two more questions.
Hello, my name is Bo-kyung Kim from Gangwon National University, and I will say in Korean words. 제가 다른 세션을 통해서 유럽 등지의 좋은 교육, 인프라 등을 들어봤는데, 지금 대도자 취업 역량 대안 제시를 교육 관련 종사자나 정부 입장에서 제시를 많이 해주신 것 같아서, 취업이 닥친 한국 학생들 입장에서 한국의 치열한 취업 전쟁 살아남기 위해서 어떻게 준비해야 하는지 조언을 좀 해줬으면 좋겠어요. 예를 들면 뭐 해외로 유학을 간다거나 해외로 취업을 한다거나 아니면 중소기업부터 시작해서 더 큰 기업에 가거나 그리고 또 질문이 하나 더 있는데요. 한국 학생들을 위한 일자리 창출도 되게 시급한데 그 정부가 다문화 인재들에 투자하는 것에 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금합니다.
Dr. Colombo, could you answer, please?
It's not an easy question, mainly because I don't know the Korean market and your attitude. The only beautiful thing that I know about Korea, sorry if I take the opportunity, but I really want to say this, is the fact that you smile. You're a smiling people, and this is impressive for an old, sad European coming here. I think, coming back to the examples that we share, that probably as a graduate, I would, the only tip that I can say, move. Doesn't necessarily mean go abroad or overseas, but it might be go overseas. And it's not true that only rich people can go overseas. By my experience, I managed to go overseas and to save money. I managed to send my daughter now, she's 15, she's in Cambridge, and she found 2 jobs, and she's paying her taxes now. So it really depends on you, and it's easier than it seems to go overseas. Sometimes we don't move simply because we find ourselves some reasons not to move. But when I mean moving, again, let me insist on this thing. It's also moving and doing and taking part. Let me associate to the example. I found the job where I'm now. The way I found the job where I'm now is because I played football. I played one soccer game one night. And I was not drunk, but I was happy. And I managed to say things. I was really happy that day. After 3 months, I got a call in Cambridge by the director of the institute where I was, if I was able to join the company, because they needed somebody. So. But because probably of that match that we had together, so connections, moving, and because the degrees in now, probably the specialization has to do with the relationship in your moving. I'm sorry. In terms of the system, I don't know the Korean system, so I cannot tell you what is lacking and what it needs to be done.
Okay, final questions.
Thank you for giving me a chance to thank Professor Cho for thinking about cooperation with colleges and industries. And I've been thinking about it too, but what I want to ask to adults of our society is that give freshmen and sophomores of colleges or universities, give them chance to choose their major when they become third year. And firstly, what is needed to do is to substitute all the certificates that all the graduates are trying to achieve, substitute it into the school system publicly, so students don't need to waste their time and money extra, like 3천만 원 for one certificate, and that doesn't prove, or that doesn't make the students or candidates' life easier. It doesn't give them any better chance, I guess. And so what is needed is, first of all, substitution of the certificates in the school system, and please let freshmen and sophomores have mandatory system of learning philosophy first, so that they can understand economics and other marketing and other stuff, other subjects that philosophy can help aid thinking further, so they can be more creative. Yeah, thank you.
I agree with you. And fortunately, I think currently there are a flurry of reform movements in the universities, and they are experimenting a lot of things that you just mentioned. And I hope your university take up on your advice. I also talked about a lot of things that needs to be done at the college level, to the industry, and for the government. But I really like to, as a closing remark from my point of view, give you one last comment. It's your life. Ultimately, you are responsible for your life. So you have to be really honest with yourself. And you have to confront yourself. Whether you are pursuing the life that you really want, not just for yourself, but for the people that you love as well. You got to be honest and not pursue the superficial stuff. Unless you do that, no matter what other people, other institutions, and the government do for you, you're not going to be successful and happy at the same time. So, it's your life. Ultimately, you're responsible. And I wish you luck. Thank you.
And it's going to be fun.
I agree with you too.
Thank you. Yeah, as a last part of this session, each speaker will make a 1-minute wrap-up comment. Mr. Dr. Colombo, would you start first? Just 1 minute.
I already talked too much, but it's true. It's going to be fun. Two things. Be honest with yourself is something that you can't do on your own. You need somebody else. That's why they invented men and women. You know, you exist as a relationship, so you need to be helped in understanding what you want. So trust people. Trust. Second thing, money. Money is important. We need money, but I promise, money will come. It's not the other way around. If you look for money, sooner or later you will lose that money. Don't look for money. Money will come. Things will come. And it's going to be fun for this. And please fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Okay? Because failing is part of the process of being a man. Because it's not important not failing, but start again. And it's true. You learn. Okay? It's going to be fun. Good luck.
Thank you. Dr. Sung-Chul Lee.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of that subject this session. As a person working in the business world, the thing that we like to do is it's something like a dream world. Used to be was like a war for talent, but what I'm thinking and we are thinking is now it's time for the war to develop talent. So as I told you that we used to be talent takers, but from now on we should be also talent makers too. That's something that I like to say.
Thank you. Professor Joe.
Actually, I sat here on the podium on the stage and gave a lot of advice, but I would like to admit to you that I'm very, very envious of you for two reasons. Two reasons. You are far better than your predecessors, like us. We are too old. We have done what we can, and you are currently much, much better than us. You have a much brighter future. So don't succumb to the current difficulties, but know that you have extremely good strength with you. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, because we all need to believe in you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chun-Seok Lee.
I mean, to be honest, we're in a different era, you know. We are not in our 60s where we have to raise our economy and build Samsung Electronics, you know. It's not our goal. It's not, and the solution is not going to be the same because back then you could make a university with, let's say, 경북대학교 with 1,000 men in its electronics department. That was doable because they needed only a single type of people for the industry. But now, when you talk about creative economy, the creative economy itself is an open-ended question, as I mentioned. You got to be creative. You should trust your feelings and you should go for it. I know there are a lot of people who major in political science and government studies in Korea. There must be at least 5,000 people in that major, but they don't get a seat in the politics because they're not that different. There's no reason for politicians to approach them. But in my case, I was never a politician. I never wanted to be a politician, but I got the opportunity because I had my own experience in NGO, and I knew how to teach students, and I had something to say about education. That was my difference. Then that differentiated me, and I had my chance to talk to President Park for the 15 minutes. I bought 15 minutes of her time, and I had the story to tell her. And that is the differentiation that you have to make if you're going to survive in creative economy. And what kind of preparation you're making defines what you're going to achieve in the next 5 years or 10 years. I think that's the kind of advice, if I can give any advice for the people who are preparing. Yeah.
Thank you. Lastly, Jin-gu-chan.
Since it's the last time, so I'd like to say in Korean. 일단 저도 여기 앉아 계신 많은 대학생분들과 같은 입장이라고 생각을 하고 오히려 저도 어디언스 입장에서 들으러 온 부분도 상당히 많다고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 뭐 제가 느낀 점을 조금 요약을 해서 말씀드리자면 첫 번째로는 그냥 우리가 잡을 생각을 할 때 너무 회사만 생각하지 않나. 그 회사가 있는 산업, 인더스트리, 그리고 그 안에서 일을 하는 회사, 거기에서 자기가 실제로 떨어지게 되는 롤이라든지 태스크, 이걸 종합적으로 생각해야지 그러니까 일이라는 걸 할 텐데 너무 컴퍼니 오리엔티드 되지 않았냐라는 생각을 스스로 반성을 많이 하게 됐던 것 같고요. 두 번째로는 자기 자신이 뭘 잘하고 뭘 좋아하고 뭘 못하는지에 대해서 좀 솔직하게 자기 자신과 대화할 수 있는 시간이 많아져야 될 것 같다고 생각을 했습니다. 세 번째로는 그렇게 자기 자신을 인식하고 자기가 어디로 갈지 보인다면 다른 사람들보다 one mile further 하기 위해서 더 노력을 많이 하고 스스로한테 드라이브를 많이 걸어야 된다고 생각을 했습니다. 그리고 오늘 가장 인상 깊었던 부분이자 굉장히 동의하는 부분은 love what you really want, love what you really love, 이런 부분, 자기가 정말 좋아하고 사랑하는 부분에 매진해야 될 것 같다고 생각이 들었습니다. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for the last comment. Through today's conversation, we had an in-depth discussion and exchanged ideas regarding employment of college graduates. We would like to extend our gratitude to the panelists and the floor audiences. Thank you all for sharing the ideas. 감사합니다.